Tonight, assassination attempt as the war in Ukraine rages on. A new report over the unsuccessful mission to take out Russian President Vladimir Putin. Plus, GAFFE for a change in U.S. policy.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made.
The president's message to China during his big trip to Asia. And first flights.
There was nothing left on the entire shelf.
Cargo planes carrying baby formula fly in. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
The attempt to take out Putin. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And good evening in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder. Russian President Vladimir Putin has survived an assassination attempt. That word from Ukrainian intelligence. Details are few, but officials say it happened 2 months ago towards the start of Russia's brutal invasion of its neighbor.
The breathtaking claim comes against the backdrop of reports that the 69-year-old's health is declining. Meanwhile, President Biden signed off on sending billions more in aid to Ukraine. CBN's Tara Mergener has tonight's top story. Tara.
John and Jenna, the legislation was passed by Congress with bipartisan support. It deepens U.S. commitment to Ukraine while the war's future is uncertain and amid concerns now about a global famine.
Biden signed the measure in the middle of a trip to Asia. It includes $20 billion for military assistance and is intended to support Ukraine through September, and dwarfs an earlier measure that provided $13.6 billion.
The Ukrainian military and people are fighting not only for their country, but they're fighting for principles, as the Secretary mentioned, about the rules-based international order that affects all of us.
It comes as Russia intensifies its attack, claiming it destroyed a large shipment of U.S. and European weapons. The administration hopes to send a message to Russia as the nuclear threat looms.
I certainly hope that that deterrence works. They're the most devastating weapons ever created on Earth, but they are a part of Putin's arsenal. He's pretty well cornered and boxed in.
President Zelensky says 50 to 100 Ukrainian soldiers are dying every day and continues to call for more powerful weapons to counter the invasion. This new video is said to show a strike on a Russian missile launcher.
Агресор веде інтенсивний вогневий вплив тактичними ракетними комплексами і авіацією вздовж усієї лінії зіткнення, а також в глибині оборони наших військ.
In the conflict's first war trial, a 21-year-old Russian soldier has been sentenced to life in prison. Meanwhile, Ukraine is calling for safe passage for grain exports. As the war with Russia drags on, the country's inability to export millions of tons of grain has sent global food prices soaring, raising the possibility of famines in countries that depend on its exports.
And today, a diplomat in Russia's mission to the UN quit his post, saying he has never been so ashamed of his country. John and Jenna.
All right, Tara, thank you. And turning to Asia now, where President Biden is making headlines for a statement about U.S. involvement should China invade Taiwan. At a news conference in Tokyo, a reporter asked the president if U.S. assistance to Taiwan would include a military response.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made.
And the statement seemed to catch even the president's own team off guard. The White House stressing Biden did not announce a change in U.S. policy and that he was only repeating a decades-long commitment to Taiwan. China has expressed, quote, strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition to the statement.
To the battle over border policy, the Biden administration is appealing a judge's decision over Title 42 implemented by the Trump White House. That ruling allows for the rapid deportation of migrants over COVID-19 concerns to stay in place. Officials predict a massive increase in attempted illegal crossings if the planned lifting of the COVID immigration policy went forward. The Biden administration wanted to end Title 42 today, but that was blocked Friday by a federal judge who sided with 24 state attorneys general that argued the administration did not follow proper procedure in canceling the policy.
And for more on this, let's bring in Nathan Gonzales, editor and publisher of Inside Elections. Nathan, thank you for joining us this Monday evening. So the Biden administration appealing the Title 42 ruling, but at the same time, DHS, they no longer have to worry about this potential influx at the border. The administration has to be at least somewhat relieved about that.
Well, don't accuse Democrats of just playing to the polls, because I think that this is a politically precarious situation for Democrats. I mean, Republicans are poised to try to use crime, immigration, the border, the economy as key message attacks in these upcoming 2022 elections. And the border and this policy is tied up within that. Even though they're not necessarily related, crime and the economy and jobs aren't necessarily related to this policy, Republicans will try to help voters connect the dots. And it's risky. If the Biden administration and Democrats on the Hill are not viewed as putting the safety and the American economy first, then they're going to get thumped in the November elections.
Nathan, speaking of the Biden administration, the Biden White House is trying to walk back his statements that he made in Asia regarding Taiwan. The president, though, has made similar gaffes, if you will, before. Is this something that you would consider a gaffe? Is this something that you would just consider a misstep? How do you characterize this?
I think it depends on what happens in the future, meaning what if indeed China does become more of an aggressor to Taiwan, and then how does the U.S. react? And is that the same or different than what the president just laid out? So I don't think we know. It's clear, though, from the White House, the other members of the White House team and how they reacted, that they weren't expecting the president to do this. But, you know, my mind goes all the way back to when Biden was running with Obama, and Biden on, I believe, a Sunday morning news show made a statement about same-sex marriage, and it kind of caught everyone off guard. So this is not anything new, and we'll see if the policy has indeed changed. And I guess hopefully it doesn't get to that point, because then there might be a situation that escalates into something else.
Yeah. Former Vice President Mike Pence is campaigning in Georgia tonight with Brian Kemp, of course, the governor who drew the ire of former President Trump for refusing to challenge Georgia's 2020 election results. Is this Pence's way of tiptoeing away from the former president in a potential 2024 run?
Well, I think he's done more than tiptoeing away from the former president. He's trying to put some distance, some significant distance there. And it looks like Governor Kemp is going to win unless all the polls are wrong and there will be some sort of shocking victory. But when it comes to 2024 and Mike Pence, I think he is in no man's land. And what I mean is that he's not for people who don't, Republicans who may want to move on from former President Trump, Pence isn't going to be that guy, because he was the vice president for President Trump for 4 years. For voters who do still like Trump and want some of the policies, Pence isn't Trump enough. He didn't go far enough in their mind on the certification of the election. And so I think, and stylistically, Pence is not the kind of bombastic individual that Trump is. So it's hard for me to see what Pence's path forward is, even if he is able to say, hey, I was on the right side of the Georgia Republican primary in 2022. I'm not sure how much weight that's really going to hold in 2023 and 2024.
Nathan, according to testimony from former Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook, Hillary Clinton personally agreed to release information to a reporter during the 2016 presidential election about a supposed connection between Donald Trump's campaign and a Russian bank, even though the Clinton team didn't know if the information was true. How significant is this in the remaining 30 seconds or so we have left?
John and Jenna, while this was happening, my wife and I were having our, during that campaign, my wife and I were having our fourth kid. That kid is 5 years old, 5.5 years old now. So just to show how long ago this was, I think most people, Republicans believe that there were shenanigans going on with the Clinton campaign in that race. I think Democrats and even some independent voters have moved on. So I don't think this is a game changer. I think most people have made up their mind about 2016.
That is definitely perspective. Your kid, you're just having a kid. Nathan Gonzales with Inside Elections, thank you so much for your insights.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Well, tonight, kids under the age of 5 may soon be able to get a COVID-19 vaccine. The 3-dose vaccine from Pfizer is said to produce a strong response in kids ages 6 months to 5 years old. According to the drug company, mid-trial results show an efficacy of about 80%. Pfizer says it will finish submitting data to the FDA as soon as this week.
Coming up, pro-life supporters point to scientific breakthroughs backing up their movement, even as the nation awaits a high court ruling that could overturn Roe v. Wade.
Welcome back. The Catholic Archbishop of San Francisco is taking a stand. He is forbidding House Speaker Nancy Pelosi from receiving communion over her stance on abortion. It comes as the country awaits a final decision from the Supreme Court on a case that could overturn Roe v. Wade.
For nearly 50 years, abortion opponents have been fighting to end the procedure in America. And as Charlene Aaron reports, they credit the role scientific advancements have played in the fight for life.
Discussing that leaked Supreme Court opinion that signaled a potential end of Roe versus Wade, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made comments regarding abortion that many say highlight just how out of touch her party really is when it comes to the issue of life and the science that supports it.
The science hasn't changed, but the court changed, and therefore they're deciding that it will be different.
Dr. Tara Sander-Lee, director of life sciences at Charlotte Lozier Institute, disagrees with Pelosi, adding the speaker seems unaware of technological advancements since Roe.
For 3 years, she's been telling America to follow the science, but at this moment, she's choosing to ignore the science because it's inconvenient to her extreme political agenda.
Since the 1973 ruling legalizing abortion, ultrasound technology has boomed, providing a window into the womb for millions who now post images of their unborn babies on their refrigerators. According to 40 Days for Life, 93% of women who have ultrasounds choose to keep their babies.
Now in 2022, not only do we have ultrasounds, but we have, 3D ultrasounds. We have ultrasounds where you can really get this beautiful, clear image of a baby growing in the womb.
Christina Bennett, a correspondent with the group Live Action, explains how the internet has also provided a unique view of the unborn.
Live Action has a video called Baby Olivia, which goes through the whole development of a baby. You can just go on YouTube and watch that video. Technology through the internet and through, of course, medical science, even just us understanding that babies can feel pain after 20 weeks, even those things we were not aware of.
Dr. Gracie Christie, a diagnostic radiologist and policy advisor for the Catholic Association, submitted a brief in the key Supreme Court case Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health, describing the science used in Roe as outdated.
We've developed a different appreciation of the humanity of the fetus that we didn't have back then through ultrasound, and my brief has a lot to do with that. We included pictures of unborn babies for the justices, and we were really proud of that because they're so compelling.
At the heart of Roe was the question of when life in the womb begins, an issue Christie and others say is clearly proven by newer science.
In 1973, viability was probably 30-something weeks. Now we're down to 22 or 23 weeks. What an amazing difference.
Advancements in prenatal imaging and surgical technology, combined with discoveries in anesthesia for relieving pain, have also been pivotal in ushering in the modern era of fetal surgery.
Imagine this. A surgeon opens a woman's belly, cuts through the wall of her uterus, pulls out her baby with the baby's heart beating, the baby's moving, they anesthetize the baby, operate on the child, and then the mom waits to give birth to hopefully a much healthier baby.
All evidence, many say, can no longer be denied.
This is the truth. This is what science reveals. And so to say otherwise is just simply to ignore the science that's around us today.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
When we come back, the baby formula shortage. New emergency shipments are now stateside, but there is nowhere near enough. What parents should know.
A welcome sight for worried parents of infants with dietary needs. The first shipment of emergency baby formula landed in Indiana on a military cargo flight from Switzerland carrying nearly 80,000 pounds of formula. It's part of the Biden administration's Operation Fly Formula, though barely scratches the surface in a nationwide shortage. The president is taking other emergency measures to resolve the crisis as well, invoking the Defense Production Act to produce more formula.
Still, John, it could take weeks before adequate supplies of formula reach store shelves. Medical reporter Lori Johnson shows us what parents can do in the meantime to keep their babies safe.
Millions of parents are feeling stressed out, angry, and in some cases panicked as they try to find their baby's formula. Colorado mom Ashley Lane, like so many parents, was shocked to discover she might not be able to perform the most basic need, feeding her child.
There was nothing left on the entire shelf. I took a picture and sent it home, and I was like, thank goodness we have a couple cans left.
Her family got busy searching for more.
My sister picked me up some in Arvada yesterday, my dad up in Thornton the other day.
Not everyone has that kind of support, which is where the church can make a difference.
So one of the big questions that we asked ourselves years ago was, if we ever shut our doors as a church, would anybody in the community miss us? And that is really what drives us on a daily basis.
Virginia's Fairfax Church Resource Center regularly provides infant formula and other necessities to needy families. One supplier even had extra baby formula, which the church is giving to anyone else who needs it.
In a time like this where there's a shortage and we have access to the resources, we just want to be a part of solving that problem.
As parents try to solve the situation, health experts warn against taking desperate measures.
Parents should not try to make their own baby formula. It's a very complicated proposition, and you'll only do harm to your child. Similarly, you shouldn't dilute baby formula, same types of issues.
And exercise extreme caution when turning to the internet.
There are unscrupulous people online right now selling baby formula. Maybe it's the real thing, maybe it's not, maybe it's expired, maybe it's counterfeit, and they're price gouging. And my feeling about price gougers is they should be hung up by their thumbs.
Meanwhile, breast milk is in high demand.
Sometimes it does feel like all I do is breastfeed.
Kendall Lane answers the call as a way to serve God. In addition to feeding her own baby, she pumps more of her breast milk and gives it to friends.
You know, in the Bible, it says, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I have been so blessed to be able to provide more than enough. And so I just feel like God has placed it on my heart to be able to help moms in this time specifically.
Kendall also donates to one of the dozens of Himbana banks, Human Milk Bank Association of North America.
Milk banks, we not only screen donors in many different ways, we also analyze, pasteurize, and culture the milk in a microbiology lab, reducing the risk of transmission of disease.
That's why using a certified Himbana milk bank is important when trying to find this nourishment for your child.
Now, in the informally shared arena or sales of the black market per se of human milk sales, you do risk contamination, transmission of viral disease. You also risk exposure to contaminants, such as medications that mothers are taking that they assume are safe for lactation, and they are not.
Parents should consider checking with their pediatrician before accepting an unknown source of breast milk or switching to a different type of infant formula. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Thank you, Lori. The men and women in blue are not immune from the surge in violent crime across America. More and more police are becoming crime victims.
Yeah, the FBI and law enforcement are trying to shine a light on the problem and come up with solutions. CBN's Brody Carter reports.
We have to look at how police officers now are being attacked. They're being attacked simply because of the uniforms they wear.
73 police officers were killed on the job in 2021. That's nearly a 60% jump in police officer deaths than the previous year. Retired Dallas Police Sergeant Trey Penny is president of the National Fallen Officer Foundation and says violence aimed at police is unlike anything he's seen before.
86 ambush-style attacks last year, 26 officers killed. This year alone, we've already had 26 ambush attacks. and 7 officers killed.
So why the increase? FBI Director Christopher Wray says some of it's tied to an increase in violent crimes as a whole. In 2020, murder jumped 29% in the U.S., with nearly 5,000 more people killed than 2019. Possible reasons include more juveniles committing violent crimes, increased gun trafficking, and an alarming number of some of the worst criminals getting back on the streets.
Last year, officers were being killed at a rate of almost 1 every 5 days.
The FBI arrested some 15,000 violent gang members last year. Christopher Wray says they're working with task forces and local law enforcement agencies nationwide to try and mitigate this surge in violence. Still, gun violence remains at an all-time high. Researchers for the New England Journal of Medicine found gun violence increased during COVID. There's no clear correlation. Still, some 45,000 firearm-related deaths took place in 2020. Sergeant Penny believes social media is a big part of the problem.
I've been a proponent for regulated social media because of the online radicalism. You know, dating back to the 2016 shooting attack in Dallas, Texas, where 5 officers were killed, and like I said, two of the officers were really good friends of mine. It would not have occurred that way had it not been for the social media online radicalization. Now these platforms are being used to incite violence across the country against police officers, and you have a lot of people, especially on the political spectrum, that have used this free speech narrative, saying that people need to be able to express their opinion.
In the worst cases, Sergeant Penny says those opinions lead to tragedy. Most recently in a Buffalo grocery store, where the shooter targeted black people, killing 10 and injuring 3 based on a racist ideology investigators believe the shooter found online. Sergeant Penny filed a lawsuit against Facebook, Twitter, and Google in connection with the 2016 Dallas shooting. The courts let them go. But it's not stopping law enforcement from finding solutions to serve and protect the men and women who've sworn to do the same.
We will follow the facts wherever they lead, to whomever they lead, no matter who likes it.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
Coming up, life in the fast lane. A charitable car club makes one centenarian's lifelong dream come true.
Finally tonight, the surprise of a century. Audrey Matheson has always wanted to ride in a red Corvette convertible.
And now at nearly 100 years young, her wish is finally coming true. Her family surprising Audrey on her birthday with the ride of her life, teaming up with Arizona's East Valley Corvettes Club, which was eager to deliver a thrill ride to remember.
Want to go for a ride?
A thankful Audrey was a bit shaken up by all of the activities, saying her heart was definitely full. Go, Ryder, go. Look at her.
She looks great. Wow.
Yeah, for nearly 100 years old. Yeah. I'm not sure if I was 100, I would want to be riding a Corvette like that.
Good for her. And happy birthday.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching Faith Nation.
Have a great night.